I finally purchased my dream home and asked my family to come see it. Not a single one of them showed up. They all made excuses. While I sat unpacking alone, my dad texted, "We need to talk about the house." My answer left them utterly stunned. Can you imagine spending 10 years of your life, pouring every single penny, every late night, into building a dream, only for your own family to deliver a gut-wrenching betrayal the very day you finally hold the keys to your new home? It was supposed to be the start of my happiest chapter, but instead, it felt like the world had just ripped the rug out from under me, leaving me utterly alone. What the hell happened? My name is Justine, and I'm 33 years old. Just a month ago, after a decade of relentless saving, I finally bought my dream house. The moment those keys were in my hand, this overwhelming wave of joy washed over me. I just wanted to share it, you know? So, I sent out invitations to my entire family for a housewarming dinner. I spent days getting everything ready, preparing guest rooms, cooking all their favorite meals, even hanging family photos around the place. I wanted it to feel like home for them too. But as Saturday ticked by, my initial excitement slowly curdled into confusion, then a crushing heartbreak. Not a single person showed up. I sat there, alone, amidst unopened boxes and cooling food, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dad. Just 6 words, "We need to talk about the house." My childhood? It was a world away from this beautiful place. We grew up in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town. My parents, Thomas and Linda, worked multiple jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. Mom waited tables in the mornings, then cleaned offices at night. Dad bounced between construction and security gigs, whatever he could find. My younger siblings, Natalie and Adam, shared the second bedroom, and I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room until I was 17. Money wasn't just tight, it was this constant, suffocating presence. I remember Mom stretching a single pound of ground beef across 3 meals, adding more beans and less meat each time. Dad tracked every kilowatt on the electric bill, lecturing us if we left a light on in an empty room. "Electricity costs money we don't have," he'd sigh, flipping the switch, a sound that carried the crushing weight of his financial worries. But even with all that, we had our Sunday drives. Once a month, Mom would convince Dad to borrow his brother's car, and we'd cruise through the affluent neighborhoods across town. Those streets, lined with incredible houses, absolutely fascinated me. I'd press my face against the window, picking out my favorites, imagining what life might be like inside. "Look at that one with the red door, Mom," I'd exclaim, pointing to a craftsman-style house with a wide front porch and hanging flower baskets. Mom would smile, her eyes lighting up. "That one's gorgeous, Justine. All those windows would let in so much natural light." But Dad's response? It never changed. "People like us don't own houses like that," he'd say, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Best not to fill your head with impossible dreams." Those words stuck with me. Not as discouragement, though. No, they were a burning challenge. By 15, I'd talked the owner of a local diner into hiring me on weekends and after school. I saved every single dollar, hiding my earnings in a lockbox under my pull-out bed. When my parents found out, they expected me to contribute to household expenses, which I did. But I still managed to set aside half of every paycheck for my future. High school graduation brought news I never saw coming. My guidance counselor called me into her office one April afternoon, barely containing her excitement. "Justine, have you checked your email today?" I hadn't. Internet at home was another luxury we couldn't afford. When she showed me the scholarship notification on her computer screen, I burst into tears. A full ride to State University, including housing. I was going to be the first person in my family to attend college. I expected my family to truly celebrate this victory. Mom did, hugging me tightly. "I always knew you were special," she whispered. Dad nodded, a flush of pride quickly replaced by practicality. College is expensive, even with scholarships. Books, supplies, living expenses. Don't get too big for your boots. Natalie, then 14, seemed genuinely happy. Adam, only 12, was too young to grasp the significance. College tested me in ways I hadn't anticipated. The scholarship covered tuition and basic housing, but little else. I worked at the campus bookstore between classes and waited tables on weekends. Sleep became a luxury, but I maintained my grades and continued saving. The cultural shift was even harder than the financial strain. Many of my classmates came from wealthy families. They spoke of European vacations. Their parents were doctors, lawyers, business executives. I learned to navigate conversations carefully, sharing little about my background, constantly feeling the chasm between our experiences. When I called home, conversations grew increasingly strained. Mom wanted every detail of campus life, living vicariously through me. Dad asked primarily about costs and if my jobs were interfering with my studies. Natalie and Adam talked less and less. Our shared childhood experiences no longer felt enough to bridge the growing gap. Graduation day arrived after 4 grueling years. I scanned the audience, desperate to see my entire family among the proud parents and siblings. Only Mom appeared, sitting alone in a dress I knew she'd saved months to purchase. "Where is everyone?" I asked when we met after the ceremony. "Your father picked up an extra shift. They're short-handed at the site," she explained, not meeting my eyes. "Natalie has a school project due Monday, and Adam wasn't feeling well." I swallowed my disappointment, nodding. We took pictures, just the two of us, my hard-earned diploma between us. Later, I realized this day set a pattern that would define our family dynamics for years to come. My achievements, however significant to me, often received minimal acknowledgement from most of my family. Their absence at graduation was just the beginning. Armed with my marketing degree, I landed an entry-level position at a mid-sized firm downtown. The starting salary wasn't impressive, but the growth potential was real. I found a studio apartment 20 minutes from the office by bus. It was barely 400 square feet, with a kitchenette so small I could touch opposite counters without stretching. But it was mine, and the rent allowed me to keep saving. My financial plan was meticulously detailed, 50% for essentials, 30% for savings earmarked specifically for a future home, and 20% for everything else, including the occasional movie or a dinner out. I tracked every dollar, watching my house fund grow incrementally. "You need to live a little," my colleague Samantha would say, waving concert tickets. I always declined. "You're only young once." She wasn't wrong, but my focus remained unwavering. The memory of my father's words about impossible dreams fueled my determination. I wasn't just saving for a house, I was proving something to myself and my family. Professional growth came steadily. By my second year, I was promoted to account manager. Year 4 brought another promotion to senior account manager. The accompanying salary increases went directly into my house fund rather than upgrading my living situation. Weekends and evenings, I built a side business managing social media accounts for local small businesses. What began as a single client, the florist around the corner, expanded to 8 regular accounts. This additional income accelerated my savings significantly. My personal life, however, took a backseat. Friends stopped inviting me to costly outings, knowing my likely response. My apartment remained sparsely furnished with second-hand items. Vacations were non-existent. Even holidays became working days as I took advantage of businesses needing social media coverage. During year 3 at the firm, I met Marcus in the elevator. He worked for the legal office 2 floors above ours, his smile bright against his dark blue suit as he asked about the stack of social media strategy documents I was balancing. Our relationship developed slowly. Coffee dates turned to dinner, movies, and eventually weekends together. He was patient with my schedule and supportive of my goals, at least initially. 6 months in, he suggested moving in together. "We could get a nicer place for less than we're paying separately," he reasoned. "You'd reach your house fund goal even faster." The logic was sound, but something held me back. Perhaps it was fear of merging my carefully controlled financial world with someone else's, or worry that my savings discipline would relax. Whatever the reason, I declined, and Marcus accepted my decision with grace. 3 years into our relationship, the cracks began to show. Marcus started calling my saving habits an obsession. Arguments erupted over declined invitations to friends' destination weddings and my reluctance to spend on experiences he valued. "There's more to life than preparing for a future that might never come," he said during our final fight. "You're missing everything that's happening right now." The breakup was painful, but clarifying. I realized I wasn't willing to compromise on my goal, not even for love. The house represented something beyond physical property. It was tangible proof that people like us could indeed achieve what my father thought impossible. My family's reactions to my career progression were complicated. Mom expressed genuine pride but seemed increasingly uncomfortable during her infrequent visits to my apartments. "This neighborhood is so different from ours," she'd comment, glancing nervously at the young professionals entering the coffee shop below my second apartment. Dad refused to visit at all. "Downtown is too fancy for me," he'd say when invited. "Too many one-way streets and no place to park." My relationship with my siblings shifted, too. Adam, now working irregularly in construction like Dad, called primarily when he needed money. My offers to help with budgeting or job applications were met with defensiveness. "Not everyone wants to work themselves to death for some American dream fantasy," he snapped when I suggested a trade certification program. Natalie married young to her high school boyfriend and had 2 children quickly. Our conversations revolved around her kids, with little interest expressed in my life. When I mentioned my growing house fund after a particularly good quarter with my side business, she changed the subject abruptly. 8 years into my career, I had a revelation during a client meeting. The CEO of a local startup mentioned purchasing her first investment property at 34. "The perfect time to build wealth is when you have income, but before you have major family obligations," she said casually. At 32, I realized my timeline could be accelerated. My savings, combined with my excellent credit score and steady income from both my primary job and side business, put home ownership within reach 2 years earlier than planned. That evening, I contacted a mortgage broker for a preliminary consultation. The meeting with my mortgage broker, James, confirmed what I suspected. 8 years of disciplined saving and career advancement had positioned me incredibly well for home ownership. My pre-approval amount exceeded my expectations, though I remained committed to staying below that maximum to maintain financial flexibility. "You've done the hard part already," James said, reviewing my impeccable credit report and substantial down payment. "Most first-time buyers struggle with the saving phase. You're in an enviable position." His words validated years of sacrifices, all those declined invitations, and sparsely furnished apartments. The next step was finding a realtor. Through a work connection, I met Kelly, a straight-talking agent specializing in first-time buyers. Our initial conversation set clear parameters: craftsman or colonial style, minimum 3 bedrooms for family visits and a home office, an established neighborhood with character, and a reasonable commute downtown. "I've been visualizing this house for 15 years, I explained to Kelly. "I'll know it when I see it, but these are my non-negotiables." The house hunting process proved more emotionally taxing than anticipated. Over 3 months, we viewed 47 properties. Some came close to my vision but had fatal flaws: water damage concealed by fresh paint, outdated electrical systems requiring costly updates, or locations that would add an hour to my daily commute. By property 38, fatigue set in. "Maybe I'm being too picky," I told Kelly after leaving a nearly perfect colonial with a compromised foundation. "Perhaps I should adjust my expectations." "The right house is worth waiting for," Kelly assured me. "Especially for someone who's been as patient and purposeful as you have been." Property 42 changed everything. Driving down a tree-lined street in the historic Oakwood district, I spotted it before Kelly even slowed the car: a craftsman bungalow with a deep front porch, original woodwork, and a red door. My heart raced as we parked. "This looks promising," Kelly said, noting my expression. The interior exceeded my expectations. Original hardwood floors throughout, built-in bookshelves flanking a brick fireplace, a renovated kitchen that respected the home's character while offering modern functionality. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms with angular ceilings and dormer windows created perfect spaces for guests and a home office. Standing in the master bedroom, sunlight streaming through mullioned windows onto wide plank floors, I felt an unexpected wave of emotion. "This is it," I whispered, running my hand along the century-old doorframe. "This feels like coming home to a place I've never been before." Kelly nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. "The asking price is at the top of your range, but given the location and condition, it's fair. If you're serious, we should move quickly. Properties in this neighborhood typically receive multiple offers." That night, I barely slept, running numbers and visualizing my furniture in those sunlit rooms. By morning, my decision was made. We submitted an offer at asking price with a personal letter to the owners explaining why their house would be the perfect first home for a first-generation homebuyer. Competition was fierce. 3 other offers came in, one above asking price. The waiting period was excruciating. I threw myself into work, trying not to check my phone every 5 minutes for news from Kelly. 3 days later, my offer was accepted. The owners, an older couple downsizing to be closer to grandchildren, had been touched by my letter. They chose my offer despite the higher competing bid, wanting their beloved home to go to someone who would appreciate its character. The loan process brought unexpected complications. My self-employment income from the side business, while substantial, created documentation challenges. The underwriter requested additional verification, extending the closing timeline by 2 weeks. "This is normal for self-employed borrowers," James reassured me. "Your finances are solid. It's just a matter of documenting everything properly." Those 2 weeks felt endless. A competing buyer remained interested, ready to step in if my financing fell through. I submitted tax returns, profit and loss statements, and client contracts, assembling a comprehensive financial portrait to satisfy the underwriter. Finally, approval came through. Closing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I signed countless documents, initialed dozens of pages, and then received the keys to my first home. The moment felt surreal, the culmination of a journey that began with those Sunday drives through neighborhoods exactly like this one. After the closing, I asked for time alone in the empty house. Walking room to room, I allowed the significance to sink in. In the living room, I sat on the floor and cried. Tears of accomplishment, relief, and vindication. The daughter of renters who couldn't afford to leave lights on now owned a piece of the American dream that had seemed so unattainable. Taking photos of each room, I created a family group text, something I rarely did. "Just closed on my first house. Can't wait for you all to visit and help christen it properly. Thinking of hosting a family dinner 2 weeks from Saturday once I'm settled. Save the date." The responses trickled in slowly. Mom sent a congratulations. Natalie replied with a thumbs up emoji. Adam didn't respond at all. Dad finally wrote, "Houses like that have high maintenance costs. Hope you budgeted for repairs." The tepid reaction stunned, but couldn't diminish my accomplishment. Standing in what would become my bedroom, watching sunset light paint the walls amber, I made a promise to myself: this house would become a home filled with warmth and welcome, regardless of my family's ability to share in my joy. The 2 weeks between closing and my planned family gathering flew by in a whirlwind of activity. I arranged for my meager apartment furnishings to be moved quickly, realizing how inadequate they looked in the larger space. The living room sofa that had dominated my apartment barely filled a corner of the new space. My dining table for 2 seemed lost in the proper dining room. One room at a time, I reminded myself, prioritizing essential spaces. I found a second-hand dining table that could seat 8, perfect for the family dinner I was planning. A quick coat of paint refreshed it, and new chairs from a budget-friendly store completed the set. With basic furnishings in place, I turned my attention to preparing for my family's first visit. This wasn't just about showing off my new home, it was an opportunity to reconnect, to bridge the growing distance between us. Perhaps seeing my success in person would help them understand my choices and sacrifices. The guest room for my parents received special attention. I splurged on a new mattress and quality bedding, knowing Dad's back problems often made sleeping away from home difficult. The second bedroom was prepared for Natalie, her husband Troy, and an air mattress set up for the kids alongside the queen bed. The small third bedroom, eventually planned as my home office, would accommodate Adam. Shopping for groceries, I filled my cart with ingredients for everyone's favorites: Dad's pot roast, Mom's blueberry cobbler, Natalie's Caesar salad, Adam's buffalo chicken dip. The bill at checkout made me wince, but this celebration warranted the expense. Throughout the house, I created thoughtful touches. A photo wall in the hallway displayed family pictures spanning decades: Mom and Dad on their wedding day, Natalie and Adam as toddlers splashing in a kiddie pool, all four of us at a rare beach vacation when I was 12. Recent photos were noticeably absent, a reality I hoped this visit might begin to change. Welcome baskets awaited each family member. For Mom, a gardening book and seed packets for the backyard plot we could plan together. For Dad, a custom keychain with the house address, symbolizing his welcome anytime. For Natalie's kids, age-appropriate books and coloring supplies. For Adam, a local brewery gift card for a tour I thought we might take together. 1 week before the planned dinner, I sent formal invitations with detailed directions, parking information, and a warm note expressing how meaningful their presence would be. Initial responses seemed positive. Mom called asking what she could bring. "Just yourselves," I assured her. "Everything else is taken care of." Natalie texted that Troy had arranged time off work and they were looking forward to seeing the new place. Adam responded with a brief, "I'll be there," that nonetheless lifted my spirits. Dad remained silent, but Mom assured me they would drive together. 3 days before the dinner, the shift began. Natalie called first. "Justine, I'm so sorry, but Emma has come down with an ear infection. The pediatrician says she shouldn't travel this weekend. Could Troy stay with Emma while you and Jack come?" I suggested, trying to salvage part of the visit. "Troy's mother was counting on us visiting her Sunday, so he needs to take Jack there while I stay with Emma," she explained, her excuse growing more complicated. "We'll definitely come another weekend once everyone's healthy." I accepted her explanation, disappointment settling in my stomach. That evening, Adam texted, "Boss just scheduled me for Saturday. Someone called out, and I need the hours." "Sorry, sis." This felt less believable. Adam rarely picked up extra shifts, frequently complaining about his manager's last-minute scheduling. Still, challenging him would only create tension. I responded with understanding and an offer to reschedule. Thursday brought Mom's call, the one I'd been dreading after the pattern established by my siblings. "Your father's back is acting up something terrible," she began, her voice carrying familiar notes of apology. "He can barely make it from the bedroom to the kitchen today. There's no way he could sit in the car for an hour each way." "I could come pick you up," I offered, desperation edging into my voice. "Or just you could come, and we could FaceTime Dad during dinner." "You know he wouldn't want me traveling alone," she replied. "And he'd feel terrible being left out completely. Better to postpone until he's feeling stronger." By Friday afternoon, my family dinner for 6 had dwindled to a party of 1. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by groceries for meals no one would eat, staring at the dining table set with new plates and carefully folded napkins. The house that had felt so full of potential now echoed with emptiness. I tried calling each family member, offering alternative dates, different arrangements, anything to salvage the gathering. Voicemails and unanswered texts multiplied. Only Mom responded, reiterating Dad's health concerns and promising they'd visit soon. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, the spring sunshine seeming to mock my solitude. The welcome basket sat untouched on guest beds that would remain unslept in. I moved mechanically through the day, putting away perishable groceries and covering prepared dishes with plastic wrap. By afternoon, I gave up pretense and changed from my carefully selected outfit back into comfortable jeans and a t-shirt. Settling on the living room floor, surrounded by still unpacked boxes, I began organizing books and kitchenware, trying to focus on the physical task rather than the emotional weight pressing against my chest. The house that was supposed to be filled with family laughter remained quiet except for the occasional ping of my phone, work emails and social media notifications, but nothing from my family. The silence from them spoke volumes, particularly from Dad, who hadn't directly acknowledged my invitation or sent his regrets. As evening approached, I ordered a pizza, lacking the heart to cook any of the special meals planned. Sitting cross-legged on the floor among half-unpacked boxes, I scrolled through design websites on my tablet, forcing myself to focus on future plans rather than present disappointment. That's when Dad's text finally arrived, the notification causing my heart to leap with momentary hope. "We need to talk about the house," was all it said. No congratulations. No apology for missing the dinner. Just 7 words that somehow carried an ominous weight. My fingers hovered over the phone screen, pizza forgotten beside me. Dad rarely texted, preferring brief phone calls or having Mom relay messages. This direct communication suggested a significance I couldn't ignore. Despite the late hour, I called immediately, heart pounding. He answered on the second ring, his gruff hello lacking any warmth. "Dad, I got your text. Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the anxiety building in my chest. "Your mother's upset," he began without preamble. "Been crying on and off since you sent those house pictures." Confusion washed over me. Crying? Why? Is she okay? "No, Justine. She's not okay," his voice hardened. "None of us are okay with this show you're putting on." "Show?" I echoed, genuinely bewildered. "What are you talking about?" "This fancy house in that hoity-toity neighborhood. The dinner invitation like you're some kind of hostess from those magazines your mother used to read. It's not you, Justine. At least not the you we raised." The accusation landed like a physical blow. I sank back against an unopened box, struggling to process his words. "Dad, I've worked for this house for years. You know that. I saved every penny, worked multiple jobs. This isn't some show. It's the result of a decade of hard work." "Hard work?" He scoffed. "Is that what you call it when you turn your back on your family? When you stop coming to Sunday dinners because you're too busy with your office job and side hustle? When you move to neighborhoods where your own father feels uncomfortable visiting?" Each question increased in volume until he was nearly shouting. In the background, I could hear Mom's muffled voice urging him to calm down. "I never turned my back on anyone," I protested, my own voice rising to match his intensity. "I invited everyone here this weekend. I prepared rooms for each of you. Cooked all your favorite foods. Because we don't belong in a house like that," he exploded. "Your mother took one look at those hardwood floors and fancy kitchen and knew she'd be afraid to touch anything. Adam said he felt sick seeing those pictures, knowing he'll never afford anything close to that on construction wages. Even Natalie felt it. Said you were showing off, making it clear how far you've moved beyond us." Tears sprang to my eyes. His words cut deeper than he could possibly know. "That was never my intention. I wanted to share this with you, not make anyone feel bad." "Well, you failed," he stated flatly. "Your mother thinks you're embarrassed by where you came from, that you bought this house to escape your roots, to escape us." "That's not true," I whispered, though doubt began creeping in. Had I unconsciously chosen a neighborhood so different from my childhood home as a form of rejection? "Isn't it, Justine?" Dad continued. "When was the last time you brought any of those work friends to meet us? When was the last time you talked about your family at that fancy office? Do your colleagues even know your father works construction and your mother cleans houses?" The question struck nerves I didn't realize were exposed. I had compartmentalized my life, keeping my background separate from my professional world. Not from shame, I told myself, but from a desire to be judged on my own merits rather than my origins. I'm proud of where I came from. I insisted, my voice breaking. Everything I've accomplished is because of what you and Mom taught me about work ethic and persistence. Save it, Dad interrupted. Actions speak louder than words, and your actions say you're building a life that doesn't include us. This house is just the final proof. Mom's voice grew louder in the background, and Dad must have partially covered the phone because their exchange became muffled. When he returned, his tone had shifted from anger to something more resigned. Your mother wants me to tell you she loves you no matter what, he said mechanically. But I need to be straight with you, Justine. This changes things between us. You keep flaunting your success, making the rest of us feel small. There's going to be consequences for our relationship. Consequences? I repeated, disbelief coloring my tone. Are you actually threatening to cut me off because I bought a house? Because I succeeded? Call it what you want, he replied coldly. Just know that choices have consequences. Always have. The call ended abruptly, leaving me in stunned silence. The pizza congealed in its box, forgotten. The emptiness of the house suddenly felt oppressive rather than peaceful. Each room a testament to what I had supposedly chosen over my family. I moved through the rooms in a daze, touching the walls, the doorframes, the countertops that had brought me such joy just days earlier. Each beautiful feature now felt tainted by my father's accusations. The guest rooms mocked me with their emptiness, the welcome baskets pathetic in their optimism. In the master bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. Designer jeans and a casual top that cost more than my father likely spent on clothes in a year. When had that happened? When had I started spending $80 on shirts without blinking, when I grew up watching my mother darn socks rather than replace them? Had success changed me in ways I hadn't recognized? Had I, in my determination to rise above financial struggle, inadvertently elevated myself away from the people who had shaped me? These questions circled like vultures as I sank onto the edge of my bed. The night stretched endlessly before me, a dark canvas for painful self-examination. Sleep evaded me completely as I replayed years of interactions, searching for the moment when advancement became alienation in my family's eyes. By dawn, my eyes were swollen from tears, but my mind had achieved a clarity that had been missing. The house wasn't the problem. My success wasn't the problem. The real issue ran deeper, rooted in complex family dynamics and expectations that I had both fulfilled and defied. Morning light filtered through curtainless windows, casting long shadows across my bedroom floor. My night of painful reflection had crystallized something important. I couldn't control my family's reactions, but I could control my response. This realization felt simultaneously liberating and terrifying. After a shower and coffee, I sat at my new dining table with my laptop open. The words didn't come easily, but they came honestly. I drafted, deleted, and redrafted my response multiple times. This wasn't just a reply to Dad's accusations, it was a declaration of boundaries I should have established years ago. The final text was longer than I typically sent, but each word felt necessary. Dad, Mom, Natalie, and Adam, I began. I've spent the night thinking about our conversation and the feelings behind your absence yesterday. This is difficult to write, but I need you to hear me first. I love you all deeply. Nothing about my career path or this house purchase changes that. You are my roots, my foundation. The work ethic that built this life came directly from watching Dad work double shifts and Mom juggle multiple jobs. Every sacrifice you made for us kids taught me the value of persistence. But loving you doesn't mean I must diminish myself to make you comfortable. My success isn't a rejection of my upbringing. It's the fulfillment of the potential you nurtured. When I look at this house, I don't see an escape from my past. I see the physical manifestation of lessons you taught me. I won't apologize for working hard and achieving goals. I won't pretend I haven't earned this to soothe feelings of inadequacy I never created or intended. Most importantly, I won't sell this house or downplay my accomplishments to maintain relationships that should be strengthened, not threatened, by my success. The door to this home will always be open to each of you whenever you're ready to walk through it without resentment or judgment. I've created spaces here specifically with you in mind. A guest room with a firm mattress Dad needs for his back. A backyard where Mom and I could garden together. Room for Natalie's kids to play, and local breweries I thought Adam might enjoy exploring with me. I'm not choosing this house over family. I'm choosing to believe we can grow together rather than grow apart. I'm choosing to believe that love isn't diminished by square footage or mortgage payments. This door will always be open to you, but I won't close it on my dreams. I hope someday you'll understand that my success honors rather than rejects everything you've given me. Love always, Justine. My finger hovered over the send button for several minutes. This message would either begin healing or deepen the rift. There would be no middle ground. Finally, I pressed send and set my phone aside, deliberately turning my attention to unpacking books onto the built-in shelves. The responses came in stages, each revealing something about my relationships. Mom called first, her voice thick with tears. I never meant to make you feel bad about your accomplishments, she began. I'm proud of you, Justine. Always have been. It's just hard watching you create a life so different from what I could provide. You provided everything that matters, Mom, I replied gently. Love, values, strength. The rest is just stuff. Our conversation lasted nearly an hour, the first truly honest exchange we'd had in years. She admitted feeling intimidated by my career and financial stability, confessing that my father's reaction stemmed partly from his own sense of failure. He wanted so much more for us than what he could achieve, she explained. Seeing you accomplish what he couldn't, it's complicated for him. I understand that, I acknowledged, but I need him to see that my success is his success, too. Everything I am began with you both. We ended the call with tentative plans for her to visit alone the following weekend. Just us girls, she suggested. Your father needs more time. Natalie texted next, her message unexpectedly vulnerable. I lied about Emma being sick. The truth is I was jealous and ashamed. Troy and I can barely afford our apartment rent, and seeing your beautiful house made me feel like a failure. I'm sorry. Your message made me cry. Can we start over? I called her immediately, and our conversation revealed years of competitive feelings I'd never recognized. As the older sister who seemingly did everything right, I represented a standard she felt she couldn't meet. My achievements had unwittingly become a measuring stick against which she judged her own life choices. I've never thought less of your choices, I assured her. You have beautiful children and a loving marriage. Those are successes that can't be measured in dollar signs or property deeds. We ended the call with plans for a proper visit the following month, once she'd worked through some of her complicated feelings. Adam maintained radio silence for 3 days before sending a curt, "Need time to process. Not ready to talk yet." It was the most honest communication we'd had in years, and I respected his boundary without pushing for more. Dad's response was the most painful. A week passed with no word. Then a birthday card arrived in the mail containing a gift card to a home improvement store. No note accompanied it, but the choice of gift acknowledged my new homeowner status, a small step toward acceptance. The weeks that followed brought a mix of sadness and liberation. I missed the easy family relationships I'd once taken for granted, but there was also relief in no longer maintaining the fiction that everything was fine between us. The honest exchanges, however painful, felt like clearing stagnant air. I threw myself into making the house truly mine. Walls were painted, furniture arranged and rearranged, window treatments installed. Each decision reflected my taste and needs rather than considerations of what others might think. A freedom I hadn't previously allowed myself. When a colleague asked about my weekend plans and I mentioned renovating the guest bathroom, she asked casually, "Will your family be visiting to see the improvements?" For the first time, I answered without evasion or sugarcoating. We're working through some complicated feelings about my move. Family dynamics are challenging sometimes, but we're figuring it out step by step. Her knowing nod and shared story of similar struggles with her own relatives made me realize how universal these experiences were. The pretense of perfect family harmony I'd maintained had only isolated me further. This revelation sparked another important decision. I joined a first-generation professionals networking group, connecting with others navigating the complicated territory between their roots and their achievements. Their stories of similar family tensions helped me understand I wasn't alone in these struggles. 3 months after the failed family dinner, I hosted my first real gathering in the new house. Not for family, but for friends and colleagues who had supported my journey. As glasses clinked and laughter filled rooms that had once echoed with emptiness, I felt the house transforming from a symbol of division to one of new beginnings. 6 months after moving in, my house finally felt like home. The living room walls, once bare, now displayed a mixture of local art and personal photographs. The kitchen had become my weekend sanctuary, where I experimented with recipes far more ambitious than anything I'd attempted in my apartment's minimal cooking space. The garden beds, dormant when I purchased the property, now burst with herbs and flowers, the result of weekend labor that left dirt under my fingernails and satisfaction in my heart. On a warm Saturday evening, my dining room hosted its first proper dinner party. 8 people gathered around the table that had sat empty that first weekend, colleagues from work, neighbors from down the street, and friends from my first-generation professionals group. Wine flowed. Conversation bounced between topics, and laughter rang through rooms that had once felt cavernous in their emptiness. To Justine, toasted Diane from next door, raising her glass, who not only restored this beautiful old house, but filled it with warmth and welcome. The words touched me deeply. This was exactly what I'd envisioned when first walking through the property. Not just owning walls and floors, but creating a space where connections flourished. The path with my family remained more complicated, marked by tentative steps forward and occasional retreats. Natalie had been the first to truly breach the divide, visiting initially without her husband and children, almost secretively, as if testing whether these new waters were safe. "This is really beautiful, Justine," she'd admitted, running her hand along the original woodwork. "I can see why you fell in love with it." That first visit had led to others, eventually including Troy and the children. Watching her 5-year-old son, Jack, race through the backyard, building fairy houses beneath the oak tree while her daughter, Emma, arranged pebbles along the garden path, healed something in both of us. "They love coming here," Natalie confessed during her 3rd visit. "Jack asked yesterday if we could move to a house with pretty windows like Auntie Justine's." Mom had established a routine of visiting for coffee on Wednesday mornings when Dad was at his weekly physical therapy appointment. These visits began awkwardly with Mom perched at the edge of the sofa as if afraid to fully occupy the space. Gradually, she relaxed, eventually helping me select curtains for the living room and suggesting placement for family photos. "I brought something for you," she said one Wednesday, pulling a small box from her purse. Inside lay Grandma's china teacup and saucer, a family heirloom I'd admired since childhood. "It belongs here now, with you." The gesture acknowledged something important, that this house, despite its difference from our family's previous homes, was now part of our shared history. Adam maintained the most distance, responding sporadically to texts but declining invitations to visit. Our relationship had always been the most tenuous, his resentment of my academic achievements dating back to high school. Still, small shifts emerged. When he needed help creating a resume for a job application, he called rather than asking Mom to relay the request as he would have previously. "The place looks nice in the background," he commented during our video call, noticing the built-in bookshelves behind me. "You always did have an eye for that stuff." Coming from Adam, this qualified as high praise. Dad remained the final holdout. He had not stepped foot in my house, though Mom reported he asked questions about it after her visits. The birthday card with the home improvement store gift card had been followed by a Christmas card signed with just his name, no message. These small acknowledgments offered hope without resolution. Healing came from unexpected directions. I joined the neighborhood association and volunteered for the community garden project, planting roots of a different kind. These new connections provided perspective on my family situation as neighbors shared similar stories of achievement, creating complicated ripples through family systems. My father didn't speak to me for 2 years after I got my doctorate, confided Maria, a professor who lived 3 doors down. He had an 8th grade education and felt my degree was somehow a criticism of him. It took time, but eventually he came around. Sometimes people need space to adjust their vision of you. The most significant shift in my thinking came through therapy, a step I took 4 months after the failed family gathering. Weekly sessions helped me untangle complex emotions around success, family loyalty, and identity. Your achievement doesn't diminish anyone else's worth, my therapist emphasized during a particularly difficult session, and their discomfort with your success isn't something you need to fix by becoming smaller. This perspective freed me from the guilt that had shadowed my accomplishments. I began celebrating milestones openly, a major promotion at work, completing the front porch restoration, without immediately calculating how these successes might be perceived by my family. 9 months after moving in, an unexpected text arrived from Dad. "Your mother says the gutters need cleaning before winter. Do you have someone handling that?" The message contained no warmth, no personal connection, yet it represented something monumental. Concern for my home's maintenance, acknowledgement of its importance, and perhaps an oblique offering of practical knowledge. "I got quotes, but haven't scheduled anyone yet," I replied carefully. "Any recommendations?" His response came surprisingly quickly. "Those companies overcharge. I could take a look next weekend if you want." My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance. When I called Mom to confirm, she admitted Dad had been contemplating this offer for weeks, working up the courage to extend this olive branch in the only way he knew how. The following Saturday brought the surreal sight of my father's truck in my driveway. He emerged wearing work clothes, nodding curtly as if arriving for any ordinary job rather than his first visit to his daughter's home. Mom accompanied him, her nervous smile revealing the significance of this moment. "Nice place," he offered gruffly, assessing the exterior with professional detachment. "They don't build them like this anymore." Coming from Dad, this constituted high praise. I gave them the tour I'd planned 9 months earlier, watching Dad's eyes widen slightly at the craftsmanship of the original woodwork, and Mom's fingers trail across the kitchen countertops she'd only seen in photographs. In the backyard, Dad examined the gutters while I held the ladder. The familiar routine of working alongside him, passing tools, and following directions bridged some of the distance between us. "You did good, Justine," he said quietly as we packed up his tools. Not "I'm proud of you" or "I'm sorry," but an acknowledgement of my achievement that cost him something to give. I accepted it for the monumental concession it represented. That evening, sitting on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint my garden in golden light, I reflected on the complex journey of the past year. The house that had initially seemed to fracture my family connections now offered a different kind of foundation. One where authentic relationships could potentially be rebuilt, brick by careful brick. I realized home wasn't just about the physical space or the financial achievement it represented. Home was creating a place where I could be my authentic self while keeping doors open to the people who shaped me. However complicated those relationships might be, the path forward wouldn't be simple or direct. Some wounds would take years to fully heal, if they ever did. But sitting there, watching shadows lengthen across my garden, I felt peace with the knowledge that true success includes honoring your journey without apologizing for how far you've traveled. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever faced a similar situation where your success created unexpected rifts in your family or close relationships? How did you navigate those complicated feelings and dynamics? I'd really love to hear your stories in the comments below.